Chancellor to make his remarks. Sir, you're mute.
Is it
Yes,
audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So namaste and good afternoon to everyone. Very happy to meet Dr. Narendra Jadhav ji, with whom I have special bonding for various reasons, and one of them definitely is we both are from RIA College, and there's so much to learn from him as an administrator. Very happy to be part of this 100th Foundation Day of Mumbai School of Economics and Public Policy. It's a matter of great pride for the university that one of its department is celebrating 100th year of its existence. Today, in fact, is I would say is a matter of coincidence that today is the 100th death anniversary of Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. It's the 100th birth year celebration of Sahitya Ratna Annabhau Sathe. We had several programs in the morning for two. And now we are celebrating the 100th Foundation Day of one of the leading departments of University of Mumbai. And I'm very happy that our current director, Professor Mala, and her colleagues have organized this particular program, and there are going to be many more programs in future, I'm sure. First of all, let me congratulate Dr. Daveji for his generous donation to form the endowment for a very right cause, and that is to form the Center for Research and Finance. Well, today we all are going through a very typical and unprecedented situation all over the world. And when we're talking about Industry 4.0, we all are living in disruptive era. And one of the characteristics of this Industry 4.0, I would say, is the speed with which the things are changing around us. And this COVID-19 pandemic situation has added to the entire situation. And what we have learned from this current pandemic situation, I would say, is three things. One, the importance of resilience. Two, importance of adaptability. And third, which is, according to me, is equally important, and many times we forget, and that is the importance of coexistence. What I mean by coexistence is to understand the importance of inclusiveness and to understand the importance of collaboration. Today, we all are witnessing that because of this pandemic situation, the badly hit are those who are at the bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid in our society. And we have to ensure that the disparity in society we will do away with as early as possible. And we educationists and educational institutions are going to play an important role in this respect. And therefore, I'm very happy that all my departments are conducting several programs. And I have a greater expectation from the Mumbai School of Economics and Public Policy for obvious reason, because they have established some higher standards for others to follow. And I'm so happy to see many of our stalwarts from this department who contributed hugely in the capacity as faculty and also as students of this great department. And I'm so happy that Professor Mala and her colleagues are taking efforts to bring them together, because we all have to understand the strength of alumni. We, unfortunately, in India have still not understood that power. And it is not just merely call them and find out how many of them can support us financially. No. We have to use their expertise. and to pass it on to the next generation to prepare them for future challenges. Nearly 115 million young, or rather young students, I would say, will be joining or will be waiting to join the workforce in the next 5 to 10 years. And we have to create an ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovation to prepare them not as job seekers, but job providers. And the only way we can do that is we need to be innovative in every respect. The only way to identify and discover the limits of possible is to go beyond them into impossible. And that is exactly, Professor Mala, under your leadership as director, I'll be expecting from your department and for others to follow. There's so much this department or your department can do. There is a huge list of stalwarts who have passed out, who were the faculty, and even the type of students you get every year. So we need to grow. And as far as University of Mumbai is concerned, I assure you the complete support. We are rather envisaging and planning to have a separate building for the Mumbai School of Economics and Public Policy. So it has to grow. And whatever the challenges posed by the current pandemic situation, and which will have a greater impact on the educational field, no doubt. And we need to change ourselves accordingly. Technology is going to play a vital role. Collaborations, as you said rightly, because of this situation, all the vertical barriers are getting dissolved. So we need not restrict or should not restrict ourselves only to Mumbai or the country, but to explore that possible collaborations across the globe. So I wouldn't like to take more time. We all are eagerly awaiting for Dr. Narendra Jadhav's lecture. He's a wonderful orator. And as I said, being a Ruite, and it's a special bonding I have with him, I'm eagerly awaiting to listen to him. So I wish you all the best, and I appeal to all your alumni, your former faculty to come forward, have a deliberation about what is required to be done. The new national education policy has been passed, as you know. So what is stored as far as the higher education system is concerned, and we need to prepare ourselves for that. So with that, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I wish you all the best, and it's my tribute rather to everyone who contributed to your department to bring it to this level. And now you all have to strive hard to take it to new heights. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. I will now request Professor Pethe to say a few words about the department. Professor Pethe has been the main source of the stories that I have heard about the glory days of Bombay School of Economics. So Professor Pethe, currently the senior fellow at the department, would request him to say a few words about the department and formally introduce Dr. Narendra Jadhav.
Thank you, Mala. Dr. Narendra Jadhav, Mr. Vice Chancellor, Mr. Pro Vice Chancellor, former directors, faculty members, current and former, alumni, student friends. It's a matter of great honor and pleasure for me to be a part of this event as we celebrate the 100th birthday of our beloved institution. Let me begin by wishing you all Eid Mubarak, and with all humility and pride, recall the truly great scholar, political activist son of Maharashtra, Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak. The director has suggested that I say something about the department. My 4.5 decades of memories on the roller coaster cannot be contained in a couple of minutes, but I will acquiesce to the request because a request from the director is an order, and spend a few minutes talking about it, only about the early years. The department has been my home, and over the years, the faculty, staff, and students are like family. We have fought openly and affectionately settled our issues internally. There have been informality in the department, typically of any good institution, academic institution, and avoided hierarchies. Even as I joined the department so many years ago with Ajit, uh, our voice was heard. And the great PRB used to come to our department and never requisition us to the director's chambers. The students freely came and walked into the department, and some of them, like Kerala, Niranjan, Jayasutri, Neeraj, Mala, Vaidehi, all of them have attained great heights, and now we can happily bask in their reflected glory. There were characters who taught us and entertained us and encouraged us to read beyond the syllabi. I remember the Satmarli Hasya of Bhardwaj Sahib. Whenever he was queried about the syllabus, he would say, there are a million books in the library, go and read. And then there was the Jesus Christ-like gentleman, Professor Sandesara and De Costa, the serious intellectuals like S.H., who much later, of course, the only other serious person I can think of is Avdut, but he was much later. And young Turks like Manohar and the ever-ebullient and activist Ritu continues, along with Niranjan Chandu, to be very active in the alumni front. Tanta Rendive was a terror. I mean, Meghna Desai, who tried to do PhD under her, recalled this to me recently. But she took time out, even after she had retired, to spend time in the library with us every day, with me and Roman, as I recall, and we learned much from her. There was respect, although the department faculty worked in silos largely. So when I went to Ajay Oza, who worked with Hazari to do the concentration of industry work, he took and asked him whether I could attend his lectures even before I had enrolled for the MA. He said, forget about me. There is this young man who has come, and go to him and listen to his lectures. That young man was Dr. Dilip Nasne. So I then went to him and attended his lectures. The first time I met him, he handed me von Neumann Morgenstern's book. There was Amol Palekar for some reason in his room, as I recollect. And I attended his monetary lectures in the B division in the evening, and then his game theory lectures along with Madhav Welling in the stats department. One important fun place and comic relief in the department was the IJ office, which was ruled by Vinny and Mashruwala. Everyone visited this, especially Chandu, Subhas, Edwin playing Scrabble, making lists of best films, songs, and economists. There was an affectionate irreverence about the department faculty there. One of the other features of the department was that it was always buzzing with activity. This present faculty to note, even on holidays. In earlier times, when the department suffered great blows, with 6-7 professors like Manoj passing away, DMN, Sandesara Saab, Lalit, De Costa retiring, Mungekar, Sita Prabhu Erel going away for better things, we somehow picked ourselves up. The current conjuncture is another down we face. Let us be realistic. The difficult job is for the current crop to derive inspiration from the past and try to attain the past pristine glory with collective effort. I say these things as we stand at the cusp of COVID-19 and the NEP, which has just been rolled out, which is going to transform higher education as never before, and which would require leveraging of technology in a big way. How we prepare for it will determine how we do in the next 100 years. It is opportune that we have exactly the right person to talk to us about it, who I will now introduce, but not without prefacing that I very affectionately count him as a dear friend. Dr. Narendra Jadhav is a veritable polymath who wears many hats with great facility, a rarity in these days of super specialization. I often think of him that if somebody did even one of the things, the many things that he has done, he would have felt accomplished and krutartha. But he has done it all. Celebrated writer, reputed economist, educationist, scholar, and a policymaker and a public political leader. He may not like the last thing I have said about him, but like Sukhumai, he has been heard and his advice sought across governments and parties. He talks straight and does not pull punches, which has led to quite a lot of suffering professionally for him, but I don't think he regrets it. And in RBI, he was the chief economist, contributed to the momentous times when gold was taken out of the country and the firefighting and structural reforms. His seminal writings contained in the books and the famous paper which he co-authored in the EPW with Rangarajan and my friend Balwant Singh is cherished to this day. He also had a stint as an advisor to the IMF as well as Ethiopia and Afghanistan. Indeed, he was involved with interesting and risky work in war-torn Afghanistan when he took over as the Vice Chancellor of Pune University. As the Vice Chancellor of Pune University, he did many things. I will recount only three. One, his social extension work, where he adopted a lot of villages, underlining the fact that university, after all, is a social institution. Two, he showed mirror to his faculty. We have this habit of calling ourselves great and world class and all that. He showed the mirror. It didn't make him very popular, I fear, but he showed it to them and showed them what they had to do and to strive how hard to get there. And the third, most important, was that whenever the staff retired, he would call them, and I'm told that his dear wife was Basuvati actually picked up the tab. He would call them for a tea party, and there, from pew to the senior professor, everyone was together, no hierarchy. As a policymaker, apart from the work in RBI, as a member of Planning Commission, he set up a high-level steering committee during the 12th five-year plan. He did many things there. Prominent amongst them was he helped to germinate the idea of RUSA. He appointed a subcommittee with Panikkar and me to look into that and encouraged us, and what is now come to be as RUSA, to take care especially of state universities. He also helped reconcile the AICT and Labour Department, and create the National Vocational Quality Certification Program. As a public policy leader, he has had access to the highest echelons, from Prime Ministers Manmohan Singh to Modi. And as an NAC member, he has prominent place at Sonia Gandhi's table. As a writer, his Amsa Bapani Ami has been iconic, and the book has been translated in over 15 languages, including Spanish, Korean, Thai, French, etc. One of them received the Sahitya Academy Award. And as a multilingual writer, he has written around 40 books, not to talk of over 30 very important reports, official reports. His works appreciative of Ambedkar's economics and life have truly been illuminating. He has also, to his credit, a trilogy on the great poet laureate of India, Rabindranath Tagore. Several DLEDs, numerous national and international awards have naturally come his way, including Commander of the Order of Academic Palms by the French government. He continues his love to talk to students and so has accepted visiting professorship at the Great Ashoka University, as well as emeritus professorship at the Public Policy of MIT for Government in Pune. I remember a couple of years back, in Pune, we were both privy to an exclusive presentation by Mashelkar on exponential technologies. We were stunned, surprised, scared, and liberated. And we had a lot of discussion after that. Today, he has chosen to speak to us about Industrial Revolution 4.0. Without anticipating what he will be saying, I think he must dwell in the future on the socio-economic implications of this revolution, which is not very well understood. So we expect the next book on that very soon. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I invite Dr. Narendra Jadhav, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, to deliver the first Foundation Day lecture of MSCPP. One final comment. Normally for such lectures, we don't have Q&A, but if we have time, we may pick up one or two questions. So kindly put them up clearly as questions in the chat box, and we might be able to accommodate them. Thank you very much.
Dr. Jadhav, you are muted. Dr. Jadhav.
Unmute.
Dr. Jadhav.
Okay, I have unmuted.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Professor Abhay Pethe. for a very generous introduction. I'm truly grateful for that. Uh, Professor Suhas Pednekar, Vice Chancellor of University of Mumbai, Professor Ravindra Kulkarni, Pro Vice Chancellor, University of Mumbai, Professor Abhay Pethe, Professor Mala Lalwani, past and present faculty members, and all the alumni friends. It is indeed a great pleasure as well as an honor to have been invited to deliver this first Foundation Day lecture in this wonderful online conference celebrating the 100th Foundation Day of Mumbai School of Economics and Public Policy. We have started. I started at 2:35. Professor Ma, how long do you want me to speak now? Hello.
You have your time till
Okay.
half an hour, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 to 35.
5 minutes I will speak. Okay. All right. At the very outset, I wish Eid Mubarak to everybody. Let me begin by offering my humble tribute to Sahitya Ratna Anna Bhau Sathe and to a great national leader, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lokmanya Tilak, whose 100th death anniversary happens to be today. In 1908, when there was this trial in Mumbai High Court, and when Lokmanya Tilak was sentenced for a 6-year term, when the verdict was announced, he roared in the court and he said, and I quote, "In spite of the verdict of the jury, I maintain that I am innocent. There are higher powers that rule over the destinies of men and nations, and it may be the will of the providence that the cause I represent may flourish in my suffering than in my remaining free." And indeed, coincidentally, it was the will of the providence that on the very same day that Lokmanya Tilak passed away in Mumbai, the place was Sardar Gruha, hardly 2 kilometers away from the old campus of Mumbai University. And that is where, on the very same day, the Mumbai School of Economics was born. That's a great coincidence. Well, on this great occasion, friends, I would like to heartily congratulate each and every one who has contributed directly or indirectly to the evolution of this august institution. Well, friends, what I'm going to talk about today is industrial revolution, global public policy issues in economy and national security. Actually, my talk is going to be based on my book, which was published, released in the second half of last year. This is the book that I'm talking about, where please note that, Abhayji, I have also discussed the socio-economic implications of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. In fact, it talks about global public policy issues in economy, democracy, national security, and world peace. Today, my talk is focused on two aspects: the impact of this new age technology, Industrial Revolution 4.0, and its impact on economy and on national security, and public policy implications thereof. This is going to be the main theme that I'm going to be talking about. The book incidentally was released last year, the second half of last year. It was released by the Honorable Vice President Sri Venkaiah Naidu. And when I presented this book to Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, immediately he instructed Niti Aayog to conduct a special session where a full-fledged discussion on this book took place. And early this year, just before the COVID-19 lockdown was announced, there was a very interesting seminar that was held at Niti Aayog, which was attended by everybody. I'm going to begin my lecture today by quoting someone, a very important quote. This is a quote from Edward Wilson, biologist and naturalist, and I quote, he said, humanity today is like a waking dreamer caught between the fantasies of sleep and chaos of the real world. We have created a Star Wars civilization with Stone Age emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. We are all terribly confused, unquote. This is where is the starting point. And I'm going to talk about this ceteris paribus in the sense that keeping COVID-19 away. When I was discussing the theme for possible discussion in this lecture, COVID was one of the subjects and how the world will look like in future post-COVID-19 crisis. I realized that, and Malaji also agreed that there's enough of talk on COVID-19. So we're going to keep that away. It will come in only as an additional shock to the system. So, and we are all used to talking about ceteris paribus, other things remaining same. Here, COVID-19 is going to be held away. The world, really, as the quotation shows, we are, as a world, as a humanity, we are at a fork, we are at a crossroad. One way is we can have a major acceleration in economic growth, major improvement in standard of living standards, eradication of poverty, elimination of all life-threatening diseases. And on the other hand, there is a greatly enhanced danger of the extinction of the entire humanity. And this has been said by no less a person than Stephen Hawking, who called the new technology as an existential threat for the entire humanity. In fact, there is what is called mad law of science. It says that the minimum IQ, minimum intelligence quotient required to destroy the world is coming down by 1 point every 18 months. In other words, you do not have to be a super genius to destroy this whole world. A time will come in foreseeable future when a person with even average intelligence will be able to destroy the entire world. That is the precipice on which we are standing. And why is this happening? This is happening because of the new age technology. And therefore, it raises a number of public policy issues, and we are going to discuss them. My talk is going to be divided into 3 parts. First part, I will briefly talk about what is this new age technology. Professor Kulkarni did mention a little bit about it, but what is this new age technology which is underlying the Industrial Revolution 4.0? That's the first part. Second part, I talk about the implications for the economy and the national security. And in the third part, I talk about the public policy issues which are arising therefrom. We all know that the first industrial revolution took place in 18th century, and what triggered the first industrial revolution was the invention of steam engines. The second industrial revolution took place in 19th century, and what triggered it was invention of electricity. The third industrial revolution that came into 1980 onwards, and that was triggered by internet and information and communication technology. And from the year 2016 onwards, we are into this Industrial Revolution 4.0. This Industrial Revolution is not coming from one single technology. It is coming from a fusion of a number of post-digital revolution technologies. And these are all exponential technologies, as Professor Kulkarni mentioned. They are exponential in the sense that they double, say, every 2 or 3 years virtually without any additional cost. In that sense, they are exponential. I call it new age technology because there's no unique word for that. This is a bunch of policies, and together I call it new age technology. To my mind, this new age technology is a combination of 8 different technologies. First one is artificial intelligence and machine learning. It involves making machines intelligent. And Stephen Hawking has said that artificial intelligence is far more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Even Elon Musk, who is a great authority on this subject, he has called artificial intelligence as immortal dictator. So that's the first part. Second part is big data and data analytics. Every day we produce 2.5 exabytes of data. 1 exabyte data is 2.5 billion gigabytes. So you can imagine how much data we are creating. And big data is a fuel on which all the artificial intelligence runs. All AI, that is the artificial intelligence algorithms, analyze huge sets of databases to uncover the underlying patterns which are almost impossible to identify with bare human eyes. So that is a very, very big discipline. Third one is robotics. We know about it. Design, fabrication, and application of robots. Fourth is very important, the blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, in fact, some experts have said that blockchain technology is future of everything. It is so important that it is the future of everything. What is blockchain technology? Blockchain technology is essentially it's a digital ledger of financial transactions that is non-corruptible. It has underlying it is a distributed consensus model which allows the blockchain to run without the need of any central authority. For example, there is no need for any central bank like Reserve Bank of India to oversee the transactions. All the transactions can be validated by participants themselves in a secured manner without having to undergo the supervision or oversight of the central banks. Now this, in fact, to avoid the central banks, one part of blockchain technology like Bitcoins has come out. Bitcoins is a version of blockchain technology, which is basically to bypass the central bank authorities or any monetary supervisory authorities. But blockchain technology is not confined to Bitcoins alone. It has the potential far greater than what Bitcoins has to offer. It's a very, very widespread technology. Fifth one is automated technology. That is obviously, it automates the work that does not require manual interference like kiosks, self-checkout counters, and so on. Sixth one is additive manufacturing and 3D printing. 3D printing is an amazing thing. This can build 3D objects by adding layer upon layer of material. This material could be plastic, metal, even human tissues. And it can produce virtually anything, including human organs. So you can see the potential that it has got. The seventh one is Internet of Things. If Internet was a revolution, Internet of Things is the much bigger revolution. It is essentially a technology-enabled network of all networks. It is an ecosystem of connected devices which communicate with each other and act on the information that they receive and they send. For example, smart homes where television, air conditioner, water cooler, heater, washing machines, everything, talk to each other, communicate with each other, and they that is how the smart homes are going to be designed, and they are already being designed. Eighth one is augmented reality, which is essentially an enhanced version of actual reality, where virtual information is simply overlaid on the top of the natural environment. For example, take the case of Google Sky Map. This is an app. If you, on a clear day, when the sky is clear in the night, if you hold that your laptop with this particular app, it will immediately tell you what you can see. The stars and the constellation and everything is immediately told to you. This is the augmented reality. These 8 components together, they are disruptive, they are exponential, and they are exceedingly powerful. And together they constitute what I call new age technology. And that underlies what we call Industrial Revolution 4.0. That's the first part. Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the economy. Let's talk about this. Artificial intelligence by itself is capable of adding productivity, increasing the productivity in the world very considerably. When you combine artificial intelligence with other technology, the results are even much bigger. McKinsey Global Institute had estimated in 2018 that artificial intelligence alone can add, on an average, 1.2% per year of productivity growth. What does that mean? If you take the 2018 as the base year, where the total GDP, global GDP, was about 85 trillion US dollars, 1.2% growth in productivity per year would mean adding to global GDP about 1 trillion US dollars every year, which means that from 2018 to 2030, in 13 years, it would add 13 trillion US dollars, merely because of the artificial intelligence used. Now, how big is the 13 trillion US dollars? To give you a simple example, it is the combined GDP of Japan, Germany, United Kingdom, and India. So if you combine the GDP of these 4 countries in 2017, you get 13 trillion US dollars. So you can imagine that AI alone in 13 years can add 13 trillion US dollars to the global economy. That is the potential of this. It has application in every field, in agriculture, in manufacturing, in services. I'm trying to go a little faster. It has also application in social sector, in education sector, for example. Brick and click approach could enable considerable improvement, and this has become very important with the pandemic of COVID-19. Considerable improvement it can bring about in all the 4 E's, that is expansion, excellence, equity, and enterprise. In healthcare, again, it has a great application, particularly in a country like India, where there is an acute shortage of medical professionals, particularly physicians and specialist doctors. AI-based big data can help bridging the skills gap and empowering the medical professional. Telemedicine, which is right now being practiced because of COVID-19, can be potentially a very big thing. Another big thing in the health sector would be bioimplants. Bioimplants can be potentially instrumental in eradicating many crippling diseases. So this has a great potential, this new technology, new age technology underlying the Industrial Revolution 4.0 has that tremendous potential. Let's talk about the downside of that. And Professor Kulkarni did briefly mention about it. As we all know, as a student of economics, that issue of machines replacing human labor has been discussed and debated from the times of David Ricardo, even earlier. John Maynard Keynes, in fact, had a very interesting input there. He coined a new expression called unemployment due to, he called it technological unemployment. I'm talking about the downside of the new technology and the Industrial Revolution 4.0. It can cause major unemployment. And John Maynard Keynes, when he coined the expression of technological unemployment, he defined it as unemployment due to our discovery of means of economizing on the use of labor, outrunning the pace at which we find new uses of labor. I'll repeat that. Since I'm quoting, I should quote perfectly. Unemployment due to our discovery of means of economizing the use of labor, outrunning the pace at which we can find new uses of labor. His argument was that the increase in technological efficiency has been taking place faster than we can deal with the problem of absorption of labor. Now, what will be the impact on employment? There are two extremes. There are optimists who think that, revolutions have come and gone, but, the world has continued. And therefore, while there would be a major disruption, major losses, the new jobs will come up, like Professor Kulkarni also briefly alluded to. But there would be no permanent negative impact on the job. This is one way of thinking about it. And on the other hand, there are pessimists who contend that no matter what, this time things are different, and these new technologies can possibly lead to a lasting decline in the number of workers employed. There are many research studies there. The earliest one, which I think is seminal, is by Eric, somebody, I can't even pronounce that name. I think it is a Scandinavian name, but let's call it Eric and Andrew McMurphy study of 2011. They came out with this proposal of hypothesis of decoupling productivity and employment. What they pointed out in their study, their hypothesis was there is a covariation between productivity and employment in the United States from 1947 to the year 2000. And they demonstrated that productivity and employment closely tracked with each other. There was a rise in productivity, and that was invariably accompanied by the expansion of the level of employment. And this party went on up to the year 2000, when there was a structural break. From the year 2000 onwards, there is a growing chasm between productivity and employment. While the productivity has continued to rise quite robustly, no doubt aided by the new technology, but employment generation has slowed down distinctly, and this time it has been caused by the same technology which has improved the productivity. And therefore, there is this chasm which is growing between productivity and employment. This has happened from year 2000 onwards. This is a regime shift. In 2013, there was a very influential study by the Oxford Martin School, which showed that 47% of the jobs in the United States are at the risk of automation. And then there was a follow-up study which showed that in a country like India, 69% of the jobs are at risk of automation. And in China, 77% of the jobs are at the risk of automation, which is above the United States, 47%, and OECD countries, 57%. Now, this is huge, and this is truly scary. Later on, there was some moderation in the number, and because people took that as an employment apocalypse, the clarification was given that this shows not the actually what is going to happen, but this shows the potential that automation has, and one has to be cognizant of that. Now, in India, the situation, if you combine now, we had a slowing down, economic slowing down, unemployment rising, then COVID-19 hit us, then economy is going into recession, unemployment is rising sharply. Now, this COVID-19 has become an additional shocker when the economy was already slowing down, unemployment was already increasing, and with the technology impact, it was going to continue to enforce. And on top of that, we have now a pandemic shocker of COVID-19. This is what is the situation downside. In fact, Financial Times has, there was a lovely article in Financial Times by Clive Cookson, who pointed out that this new technology is going to affect everyone from drivers to sex workers. Nobody will be spared. And this is what is actually already was happening before the COVID-19 hit us. And COVID-19 is going to make things even only worse. There is a lot of talk about improved productivity-led new jobs required for new technology, and new jobs through creative destruction of conventional job. And that is where the example of Uber is often given. But to my mind, it's very clear that there is a major regime shift, and we are facing a huge problem of unemployment in future, not only in India, but all over the world. And COVID-19 is only making it worse. One of the change that has already taken place, even before COVID-19 hit us, is that large part of economy is becoming what is called gig economy, which is where there are more freelancers and independent contractors instead of permanent workers. So it is the economy works more on short-term contracts, flexible hours of work at the cost of irregular jobs with lesser benefits. So this is what is happening. The technology, another downside of technology is that it can also lead to growing unemployment. And there I would like to quote from Stephen Hawking. I quote, "If machines produce everything we need, the outcome will depend on how things are distributed. Everyone can enjoy a life of luxurious leisure if the machine produced wealth is shared, and more people can end up miserably poor if the machine owners successfully lobby against the wealth redistribution." So far, the trend seems to be towards the second option, with technology driving ever increasing inequality. The fear that was expressed by Stephen Hawking is very, very real. Take the case of new age technology skills. Who can afford these skills? Only the well-to-do, which means that it will contribute to growing inequality. Take the case of healthcare. Who is going to be able to afford the organ transplants and artificial bioplants? Only the rich. And therefore, rich may become actually physically stronger and mentally more agile than poor, thereby driving a new wedge between the haves and have-nots unless public policy steps in. An extreme possibility, of course, which has been talked about in the literature, is that super rich, biogenetically engineering perfect designer babies, that is what Edward Wilson called godlike technology, thus creating these perfect designer babies would create a new form of social stratification, like the new form caste system all over the world. Turning now to the final part, that is the public policy issues in economy and national security. I want to focus here, this part on national security now. First of all, let's talk about the weaponization of the new technology that is taking place. Additive manufacturing or 3D printing. In 2013, a one-shot plastic pistol was created in America, and the process was put out on the website, so anybody could prepare, and there was a court case and all that. And court, in fact, released. I mean, Mr. Cody Wilson, who had created that, was not punished. He said this is a free expression. Anyway, but a pistol can be created on a 3D printer by using technology which is readily available. Then there are advanced autonomous killer robots, and they are already created by Israel, South Korea. If wars are going to be fought between robots, there's no human loss. So what would it mean? It would mean that the military options might be chosen over a policy of dialogue and avoidance of conflict. And that would be a very dangerous thing to happen. Talking about this one, cyber attacks is the next thing that I really want to talk about. Cyber attacks are very, very scary thing is about cyber attacks, particularly on what is called critical infrastructure, information infrastructure. And anything can be done. The wars in future are probably going to be fought on these lines, attacking critical information infrastructure. Just imagine, right now, China, there was a story last week, there is the weaponization of water that is going on. In the last 10 years, China has created 87,000 dams, and they can control water not only in China, but also in India and many East Asian countries. And that can be used as a weapon, and it can create a mass disruption in the working of but the attacks on CII, the critical information infrastructure, these are the facilities or systems and functions whose incapacity or destruction would cause a huge debilitating impact on national security, on governance of the economy, and social being of a whole nation. And they could come under the attack. Example given is in 2008 in Poland, a 14-year-old boy interfered with the system and he created a major traffic problem. In the city's tram system, it derailed vehicles and it caused many injuries. And this was done by a 14-year-old. Not that he was a genius, but all the technology is readily available. That is what my point is, which means that we require huge, very important and effective firewall systems. Hackers in the area of cybersecurity can create havoc with national security. They have potential to access multiple weapon system designs and indulge in theft of sensitive intellectual property. This is not the Star Wars thing that has become now a reality. And the biggest danger there is that there can be attacks on security using low-cost computing devices. Moreover, cyber attacks don't require trained forces, vehicles, weapons, military bases, etc. All that you need is a low-cost computing range of low-cost computing devices. So we are, in a way, sitting on a precipice. Many people know about the ransomware called WannaCry. In 2017, the American health industry, in America in particular, but it happened in Europe too. A simple thing happens in the system. You get a mail, and you open that mail, and your account is blocked. your computer is blocked and you cannot open it. And the only way you can open it is by paying ransom, and that payment has to be made in bitcoins. You make payment in bitcoins to those guys who have locked it to unlock and release the data. And it happened to a very large part of the American health system. Very important financial, health-wise, personal and health data, which was stored there, suddenly there was no access to that, and they had to sort that problem out. Now, this is the danger that we are talking about. In respect of the national security, friends, there are four different aspects. One is cyber crimes. Second is cyber espionage. Third is cyber terrorism. And fourth is cyber warfare. Let's take case of cyber crimes. Wanna cry. That's the American way of saying want to cry. That's the app name. What else can you do if your computer is locked and you cannot open? You are completely dysfunctional without opening your computer and accessing your own information base. So there is an increasing use of the cyberspace, which is today becoming a breeding ground for cyber criminals who commit crimes worth billions of US dollars. Cyber espionage, very major increase in that. And if you think it is happening only elsewhere and not us, in the Pathankot attack, Pakistan used a Pakistani app called Smash app. Smash app was used, and it involved using honey trap on Facebook and so on. But Pakistani army used that before attacking the Pathankot air base in our country. They had created this through this app and honey trap. They had created a huge network of photos, contacts, personal data, email, browsing data. Once they had all this complete data, the mobile phones of our senior military personnel itself acted as a microchip, tracking the personnel's real-time locations and activities. What can be worse than this? And this has actually happened not elsewhere. It happened in the Pathankot attack by the friendly country next to us. Then coming to cyber terrorism, a grave concern worldwide is the growing menace of cyber terrorism, where terrorists hack into software used for national security using cheap and readily available software. Cyberspace has been used as a safe haven for planning terrorist attacks. Cyberspace is the one which is used. It enables the terrorists to easily find, attack the targets for their whatever cause they represent. Terrorists can also use the cyberspace for interaction, communication, infiltration, command and control, and propaganda spreading, recruitment and training camps for the terrorists. It all can be done in the cyberspace using the cyber terrorism. Gone are the days where you needed big camps, or this is what is happening and likely to happen in future. Finally, the cyber warfare. That is the order of the game now. Most wars in future probably would be cyber wars. And earlier there were four domains in which wars were fought. First was, of course, land. The second one was sea. Then the third was underwater. Fourth was sky. Now, fifth one is cyberspace. In fact, you'd be surprised to know that countries like United States already have established cyberspace as the fifth domain for the warfare, and they have created a force to prepare themselves, be ready for cyber warfare. Well, friends, what I have presented is only a synoptic view of the future, that on a ceteris paribus basis. Add to that COVID-19 pandemic, and the implications are truly scary unless we choose the right path. The group of 20, the most powerful group of nations, and India is a part of that, G20 has already started discussing these issues very seriously. Our future, friends, really and actually depends on building trust among nations for global cooperation. I certainly hope and pray that wiser counsel will prevail in the wider interest of not only our country, but in the interest of the entire humanity. Thank you all, friends, and all the best for the future evolution of Bombay School of Economics and Public Policy. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you, Dr. Narendra Jadhav, for this expectedly brilliant and lucid lecture. Because you have been so lucid, although you have been provocative, but people, I think they're still sinking in. I see no questions, but that's because what you're saying has left them all stunned a little bit and they are internalizing the whole thing. We still have about 5 or 10 minutes. So if you permit, since I am unmuted, I will ask about 5 questions.
Oh my goodness.
You have the choice. It's a multiple choice thing. And one
All
is
questions, and then I will give.
absolutely you choose, and yeah. And now I'm seeing a couple of questions also. I'll look at them. One is, hello,
Yeah.
yeah. The first one is, you talked about the great advances in technology that would lead to growth and wealth creation. All well taken. It will also lead to inequality, as you talked about. Well, do you see any scope once we are at that level of income for India in particular to get into the UBI business? That would UBI, the universal basic income kind of a policy, so that in the transition, because in the end you will all have employment is fine, but in the transition till people are able to do, what is your view on that? The second is, you talked about organ creation and so on, and designer babies. In that context, do you think that the current ethics that we have is sufficient, or do we need additional ethical components to be added and seriously thought of? The third is, you ended by talking about global cooperation and all that. However, you see in most nations that go for elections, whether it is France, Germany, America, even India to some extent, there is a great deal of inward-looking thing, an anti-multilateralism that is emerging. Now, with technologies growing exponentially, and we know that information does not freely flow, it's very costly. Between nations, is that going to lead to greater inequality? That is one thing. And then finally, 2 minor things. One is, what is your take on all these technological advances? You know very well that we started it was fashionable in economics to do finite automata and stuff like that. We abandoned that to some extent after behavioral economics came in. And we said that, the consciousness and the cognitive skills, can they be the different thing between machines? Can machines do that? I know that there was a Google thing which had to be stopped because machines started talking to themselves without our intervention. But I would like your thoughts on that. And finally, the whole data analytics thing that flies in the face of all we know about education. Because to begin with, there is no hypothesis. It's the data that through machine learning and so on prompts questions to us. Now, do you think that is going to take us too far in understanding and the implications for the overall education? These are the 5. There are 1 or 2 that are there, which I can quickly look at and tell you, but you can make up your mind one or two questions. One is from Sita Prabhu. The implications of social attainments will be huge. The widening inequality, I think, is what I had also flagged. In which case, how will policy be shaped to take care of the disadvantage? That is one. And the second one is, you can go on now. Again, along similar lines, adaptability for technological unemployment by making changes, skill sets, etc. This is from Medha Tapiawala, trying to know unknowns. At present, it's all beyond imagination. That's all that I have. There are comments, but not questions.
What is the seventh question on technological unemployment?
No, it says it's slightly vague. How about adaptability for technological unemployment by making changes in skill sets and developing new areas of human-led productivity?
Okay.
I mean, trying to know unknowns. The question seems to me to be slightly whatever, but you are nodding, so you understood it. So,
Thank you.
Take your pick for 5 minutes or so. Yeah, all yours.
No, we can finish it. Yeah. All right. You have asked 7 questions, and I'm going to try to answer all of them almost in the same order. But I see that the question number 1 and 6, they are very similar.
Yes.
They both talk about the income inequalities and UBI kind of approach. I think that if the inequalities grow the way they have been growing, and also the new technology adds to that and makes the inequalities even bigger, there is a real danger of the social system becoming unstable. Remember the warning that was given by Dr. Ambedkar in his final speech that he made in the Constituent Assembly on November 25th, 1949. That was one day before the Constitution was approved. And among other things, he said that what we have got is political independence. This democracy, which is political democracy, needs to be converted into social and economic democracy. If we do not do that, those who suffer from it will destroy the Constitution. They will overthrow the Constitution which this Constituent Assembly has so assiduously built up. So therefore, there is a cost involved. Sooner or later, we will have to take up the issue of universal basic income. So I have absolutely, I'm 100% with Sitaji and yourself on that issue. Whether current ethics are good enough or we need additional ethics, I think the whole thing is in a continuum, and ethics would have to evolve with the technology and the new developments. Third one was global cooperation. This was very important. That when the countries have become inward-looking and there is a perceptible growth of anti-global multilateralism, will it not lead to greater inequality? Yes, and whether global cooperation is going to work. I think global cooperation is inevitable. But right now it looks very, very tricky. For example, it's very uncharacteristic. No, first of all, good thing is that G20 has actually started discussing this. And in their Osaka declaration, very large part of the G20 declaration is dedicated to these issues. Now, this is a very positive development. On the other hand, nobody is talking about controlling or regulating artificial intelligence. They are all talking, they are all in a race to forge ahead. Mr. Putin, the president of Russia, has actually gone on record that any country which controls the artificial intelligence, the one country which is in a foremost position as far as artificial intelligence, is the country going to rule the world. So he has openly said that. Now China, quite uncharacteristically, has openly said that their policy is that by 2025, they are with the best of the technology, and by 2035, they would be number one. That's the grand plan, which has actually been announced. So instead of regulating or controlling, we are really talking about a mad race that is going on. And this is, in the context of that, global cooperation looks more and more difficult. Another question that you had asked was taking the cognitive skills. Can machines do that? Well, it has been proven that machines can do that. And that is where the real scare is. Because earlier, the algorithm-based artificial intelligence could be manipulated and could do it, but they were not able to use the judgment. But there is a game called Go. It's a traditional Chinese game. The Go champion of the world. Now that game requires strategy. That game requires judgment. You know, it's like poker. So it cannot be done by algorithm. So now they have developed a technique by which it's not using the algorithm, but it is in 2017 and in 2018, the Go champion of the world was defeated by a computer system, which means that computers can now exercise judgment as well. So the presumption that we have had for a very long time that there is no substitute for cognitive skills and that is where human beings excel, well, it's no longer, don't be so sure about that. Data analytics, that was a very important question that you asked. Is the education losing all the meaning? No, not at all. Data, somebody, very nice quote of somebody is that without data, it is like we are blind and deaf and standing on a freeway. You know, you would be completely lost without data. Does that mean there is no meaning to education? No. Big data is to be manipulated, is to be analyzed, and the analysis requires people. So cognitive skills will be used with the technical skills to combine them in a most productive manner. That is how I look at it. So there's no substitute to data analytics, but to say that that means that education has no meaning and everything is only data, no, it's a combination of the two that is going to create the future path for us. A final question was about the technology, unemployment. How about adaptability to that? Adaptability to that, the only way you can do that is by learning the skills. And that is where I feel, and I had urged Kasturi Rangan and others very strongly, and there is a part in the new education policy which talks about teaching these skills, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and all these disruptive technologies. I feel while they have introduced it, it is very small, very little as compared to what it should be. I am completely convinced that new technology ought to be taught from the high school level. You know, this is something which is inevitable and we are naturally good at that. Why don't we do that from the 10th standard or 9th standard? We should start that from the high school itself. That will create not only adaptability, but the right kind of attitude towards the technological changes which are happening. And only by doing that, we can minimize the adverse impact of what Keynes called technological unemployment. I think I have tried to answer all the questions. If
I
you
had a question, sir.
Hello.
I had one question. I had typed it in. The question was like this, that India is not just dualistic, it has various levels of technology now simultaneously running. Given that, what are the challenges it poses and how does it really affect our ability to address the unemployment, because like the technological unemployment, we have labor surplus in certain areas which cannot really be reskilled into newer areas, and that itself is one way to look at it, but you can advise us about the others.
Yeah, a short answer to this question, very, very good question, Dr. Nishita. We are talking about differences not only across the countries, but within the country also there is a lot of variation. In terms of, there are those who are at the front line and then those who are laggards. In fact, adjustment to the new technological development, they talk about S-shaped curve. It starts at a very low level, then there is a sharp upward turn, then it stabilizes, and then it comes down. So that way, it follows a so-called S-curve of knowledge. So in India, within India, because of the rural-urban divide and the digital divide that we have, we are bound to have this kind of problem, which will add to growing inequalities. As I was mentioning, who is going to afford all these skills, training in these advanced skills? Only urban, upper middle class and so on, and that would create a further problem. So government public policy should have some role to play. That is why I suggested that this new age technology should be introduced at the school level so that everybody has access or exposure to that to begin with. That is, I think, very, very important. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nishita.
What major public policy interventions would you recommend for the macroeconomy in a contemporary context?
Oh my goodness, you'll have to have a separate lecture.
Just 4 or 5 points. Yeah.
I have been giving my feedback to the Honorable Prime Minister, but that will come out only years after when I write my autobiography. But I'm involved in that, and I have thoughts. Rather than talking openly about it, let me not say anything about that. In any case, you can't do justice to such a big subject in a short answer. This is the problem with the bites culture that we have. Somebody had rightly said that if Mahatma Gandhi were alive, some TV anchor would go to him with a mic and said, who gave you this idea of satyagraha? Tell me in 30 seconds. It's just not possible to do that. So bigger questions require more time. And I'm sure there are many more questions that many of you have in your mind. But I would leave at that, because only if you have questions that you will try to find answer, and you will find it, of course.
Thank you, Narendraji. Brilliantly done again.
One final word. One final word. I would like to urge all the viewers and listeners that I have an exclusive YouTube channel, and the title is Dr. Narendra Jadhav World. This is the title URL of that channel. If you go to that channel, if you subscribe to that, you will be able to see 350 videos of my speeches and interviews, and many of them are on the recent economic developments and COVID-19 as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, as I said, brilliantly done. And the couple of questions that have come in late, both of them you anticipated somehow and answered. One from Indira Hirveji and one from Arun Shirsagar. Both of them are implicitly answered by you. Immanuel Kant said that conception without perception is empty, and perception without conception is blind. So that is what you were saying in response to data analytics. An absolutely brilliant session, and the chat box is full of people who are praising your presentation. Let me just convey that to you, because you wouldn't have the time to look at the chat group, but it is completely full, and I can see a whole lot of people from IGIDR, Mr. Sudhakar Yedla and Bandare Sahab and others that you know. So great. Mala, we have run out of time now, 3:30, and you can wrap it up.
All right. So thank you very much. Let me then now propose my formal vote of thanks. A vote of thanks is an integral part of every program and also the most important, as it provides us with an opportunity to thank all the people who made the program happen. My first thanks to Dr. Narendra Jadhav. Thank you very much, sir, for agreeing to deliver this lecture. And not just the lecture, but also the last minute change in timing. To be honest, I spent a sleepless night rehearsing how I would approach Dr. Jadhav and what I would say to him. The only saving grace was a friend from RBI who knows Dr. Narendra Jadhav from his RBI days. And she told me, reassured me that Dr. Jadhav would be supportive and gracious. And she was spot on. So thank you very much, Dr. Jadhav, for agreeing to this. I must express my gratitude to Dr. Narendra Jadhav. He's a friend and alumnus of the department. He comes to my rescue time and again. This time also he was my savior. He spoke to Dr. Jadhav, laid the groundwork before I made my formal call. So thank you, Niranjan. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Pro-Vice Chancellor, they have had to leave because there was another program lined up at 3:15. So they have excused themselves. They are really heads of our family, so I don't need to formally thank them, but I still, in their absence, also express my gratitude for all the kind of support and encouragement that the department has been receiving from them. This online platform is new to all of us. So our queries and doubts have been tremendous. From the technical team, Mr. Rohit Chaubey has been a great help, and he managed to get Dr. Bharti Kamath and Dr. Bhavesh Salunke to be co-hosts. Thank you to all of them who have helped with the logistics of the program. And finally, thank you to everyone in the audience for joining in and making this program a grand success. I miss the buzz when one says that tea and snacks await you, but I hope that it will not be in too far in the future. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mala.
Thank you. So I close the.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Chandu.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
you can leave.
Yeah. Hope to see
you at 9 o'clock in the night.
at 9 o'clock. Yes, that's what.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll be
Sita.
there.
Dr. Abe, how are you, Pete sir?
I'm fine, Basam. Great to see you.
Hey, great to see you too. I'm really happy to be here with you guys.
Fantastic. I keep on seeing you on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's really to see you.
Great to see you also.
KK, how are you?
Tomorrow.
Fine.
Hello, Sita.
Fine. How are you? Great to see you. Great.
Pleasure seeing you.
Same here. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, it was really so rejuvenating.